Hello, folks. This is Howard Agnew again, and I've been doing a little bit more work for the open source ecology project. Specifically, I've been involving myself a bit with the documentation crew. There have been some issues, and I like to go over them. And I hope there's some other documenters out there who can read this and say, he's having issues, but stuff's actually getting done. Or better yet, I know how to fix that. Please let me know how to fix it. Okay, well, the big issue, unfortunately, I think is probably one that all the documenters out there have who haven't actually had an opportunity to visit the site, and that's the fact that the stuff that's on the wiki, the directions and the diagrams, they don't even match up. I mean, it'll say for the primary arms on the compressed earth block machine, it says in the written directions, the left and the right bars are mirrors of each other. And yet you look at the diagrams, and one of the diagrams has one hole punched on the 6-inch side, the other one has like 5, and it's like you can't mirror if they're mirrored if they're mirrors of one another. They need to have the same number of holes punched in them then, and that the text and the diagrams don't match up, so they're all wrong. The written directions, the Google SketchUp models, and those are wrong for the holes anyway, as it turns out. And the whole CEB press diagram, the SketchUp drawing that's on the wiki. And unfortunately, that's also correlates to the bill of materials spreadsheet. That specifies 3/8 of an inch for the parts to order, and they need to say 1/2 an inch. So all this stuff is correlating, and this is just after looking at the first part, and this is why it's kind of going so slow. Great power to everyone who's been working on. I think a user named Dorkmo has done the SketchUps, and a bunch of people have worked on the text. But I mean, it's great to have. I mean, that's the only source information I really have. But I'm having to go through and actually ask the people who actually been building them. What's the actual current specs for the current build? Because they keep updating the prototype, finding better ways of doing it, and there's no way to know whether the SketchUp CAD files or the text are being updated to match, and I'm having to make sure they do match as I'm writing the document for the CEB press, and that's what I'm actually doing. So everything will be all in one place, all in one document. You'll just when we're done, all you have to do is download the PDF for free. It's open source. Print it out, and boom, you're there. You got your directions. You got everything. You know all the materials and everything you need to order to build this machine, and exactly how to build it, and all be in one place. That's going to take a bit of work, unfortunately. And I'm going to look for opportunities for others to work, and try to stay focused on getting the document done. And whatever related stuff needs to get done, I'll just throw it out on the discussion forums or on the talk pages of the appropriate wiki articles. But it's taking days to get that information together and make sure it's accurate, and check with Brian on stuff to actually put it together. And unfortunately, I think there's like 19 parts, and that's actually more than that. There's 19 parts presently listed on the header for the manufacturing instructions for the CEB press. A couple of parts that go on there that actually aren't even listed on the header. But this is going to take months, most likely. My progress rate will probably improve as I get a little more up to speed on how things are and start figuring out a system. There are a couple other minor issues to deal with, and I could really use some input on some of them. Specifically with a bit of a headache hurdle, and that is with the formatting of fractions in OpenOffice. OpenOffice and Google Docs, they both just have one way of doing fractions, and that is vertical. Unfortunately, the problem with that is if you do insert a formula object into an OpenOffice document, which is their standard way of handling a fraction, it's going to take like twice the normal vertical line space, which will, I mean, if the fraction appears in a paragraph, it's going to look ugly and awkward. It breaks the flow of the paragraph, makes it less easy to follow along and read. I mean, the ideal solution are the quote unquote the diagonal fractions. That's where you got a numerator that's kind of up, a numerator is kind of up high, then a slash, and then the denominator over here, down low, and it takes up, the same vertical space as all the regular text in the line. So the line spacing will stay consistent, and it needs to maintain the flow. Unfortunately, there's no option for a diagonal fraction in OpenOffice or Google, except for there are simple special characters that have them pre-made for specifically, I think, 1/4, 1/2, and 3/4, and that's it. And kind of a hack around that I'm using is just writing the fraction the way it's being done now, which is just typing out numerator / denominator. But then I'm formatting the numerator as a superscript and the denominator as a subscript. That's kind of a cheating hack. It's not quite right. Ideally, what I could use help with for anyone out there who's really an expert with this stuff, if you happen to know a plugin for OpenOffice or LibreOffice that can do diagonal fractions, that would be a tremendous help. Usually I don't fuss too much with formatting while I'm actually working on the document. I'll tend to worry about that more after the draft is complete, and I pick out, oh, what's the prettiest font to use? What looks nicest? Does this look good in red? Does that look good in green? That stuff can wait till the end. But the deal with the fractions, why I'm fussing with them now, while I'm actually writing the directions, is, there's going to be the specifications of inches and fractions of an inch. There are going to be a lot of individual fractions throughout the documents. So it's easier if we can figure out a way to do it early on. Otherwise, if I finish the whole draft and I've just got some kind of a stand-in, an ugly way of doing them, with the idea I'll go back later and fix them, well, then that's going to be a cajillion different fractions all over the entire document for building the whole machine. Then I have to go back one at a time and fix. And it'd be better if I had a way of doing it right from the start. So if anybody out there has any notion, so ideally it would be some type of plugin that can work with OpenOffice or LibreOffice. If anybody is aware of one, please let me know. A third issue I want to touch on, what I think is an ultimate goal in technical documentation. It isn't to present technical information in a technical fashion. This is translating technical information to users who may not necessarily be so technical. The whole idea is anybody can download instructions, print them off, or just read them off a screen, whatever format, and be able to build things. Working with that in mind, and that's affecting the decisions that I make. These are going to be Joe users. They're not all going to be expert machinists. They're not all going to know what the heck a punch press is or whatever. So we're going to have to break these things down as simple as possible. But sometimes that means taking extra steps for things. And there's a couple different things that I'm already working with where I've had to make that kind of a decision. And that is, they both involve what's in the CAD drawings, which we're doing right now in just Google SketchUp. It's an imperfect solution, but it's the only complete program. Between the SketchUp drawings that we're diagrams that we're putting into the instructions, and the text. When we're writing the text so far, like on the wiki, we're putting in, on this part on the primary arm, which has a 4-inch side and a 6-inch side. It's kind of at an angle, and there's like a 4-inch side and a 6-inch side, and they're joined together. It forms an angle, and it's a long piece. It's 72 inches, and basically just got to punch a bunch of holes in it using a punch press. And 72 inches, that's 6 feet long, and it's only a few inches wide. So that, just considering how the diagram looks, it's very wide because we're putting the 72 inches as the width, and pretty short in terms of, which represents the 4 to 6 inch, the two sides that we're actually viewing kind of at an angle, so you can see both, so you can see where all the holes go. Just in terms of proportion, that's kind of difficult to work with, especially when you want to put in the dimensionals to show where each hole goes. That's where the dimensional is kind of an illustration line that just specifies a distance in a sketch or a blueprint. In this case, there's like 8 or 9 holes that go on one side. That's a lot of dimensionals, and because it's so long, I mean, we'll have to specify from the edge. This hole goes 2 inches in, this one goes 13 inches in, this one goes 18 inches in, and so on, all across the length. And the first hole, pardon me, starts at 2 inches, and the last hole is at 70 inches, which is 5 foot 10 inches, 2 inches from the other side. And that's kind of the conflict. Trying to put in those dimensionals on a SketchUp drawing, if you're trying to do them all from one side, there's just too many. It really clutters it up, makes it hard to read and look at. And about the only one for handling that, for making the SketchUp CAD drawings legible so they can actually be read, is basically just split them in half. Half of them measure from the left, half of them from the right. But we're measuring them 2 different ways between the diagrams and the text. And where my idea of making it simple for users and lowering the bar as much as possible is, whichever we choose, they should both be the same. I mean, if we're going to do half of them from the left and half of them from the right on the SketchUp drawing, then the text should match. We should specify in the text, when a hole is marked coming from the right and the dimensionals in the drawing, we should mention that in the text so users don't get lost. They don't see a bunch of directions that are measured from the left, and the dimensionals that are actually in the drawing don't quite match that. I mean, they're in the same location, they're in the right location, they're just translated coming from the left side versus coming from the right side. The dimensions in the drawing need to match the dimensions that are in the text. That makes it simpler, it makes it less intimidating to read, and people won't be so easily scared off against trying to build it. That's one of the two things I've dealt with on this philosophy issue, this simplicity issue, making it easier for the issue so far. The other is simply that Google SketchUp, when you're doing dimensionals, I mean, I can specify when I'm marking where the holes go, just put a circle in that's, say, 70 inches from the left side, for example. I mean, this is kind of separate from the left, right. 70 inches from one side, and it'll put it in 70 inches, but you put a dimensional out to it, and it will say 5 foot 10 inches, because that's what 70 inches is. Now, it's not rocket science. There's 12 inches to a foot. A lot of people know that. But, I mean, when they're trying to read something for the first time and learn about it, I mean, there's kind of a foreboding feeling, I think, that people would have. And they might, it may not really occur to them, and they may not be able to mentally do the calculation themselves. Why not simply do that with the written directions? Instead of saying in the written directions 70 inches from the edge, why not put 5 foot 10 inches? Do those calculations ourselves as the documenters as we're writing these things. I think that lowers the intimidation factor, and I think that's a good thing. If you have good reason, if you're hearing me say this, you're realizing what I'm saying, but you're saying, it sounds good, but I know for a fact it's not going to work, or it's a bad idea, and you got a good reason why, please let me know. I'm just thinking this stuff off the top of my head, and these are the decisions I'm making, and I could really use input, alternative ways of looking and thinking on things, and that's what collaboration's all about. You can comment on here. I've also made a post about this in the open source ecology forums, and that's preferable if you'd go into the forums and let me know why I'm wrong on there. Anyway, I wanted just doing this video, letting you know what I'm working on. I'm really, really getting excited. I'm starting to feel useful, which that is such a lift on my spirit after 3 years putting thousands of job apps out, not hearing anything. I mean, yeah, I'm not getting a wage for this, but I'm feeling useful, and that's the important thing. And I'm really hoping I can get down there to Factory Farm and work on this stuff directly. That would be awesome. Anyway, this is Howard Agnew, and I guess I'm done boring you guys with this message. And please feel free to comment, reply, contact me on the wiki. Look out for my talk pages when I make a talk page and I'm saying, hey, look out, guys, there's something here that needs to get fixed. And there's a lot of you guys who are really wizards at the wiki. And I'm trying, I mean, I could do it, but that's going to take extra time and it's going to slow me down. So that's why I'm putting it on the talk pages instead of doing this stuff myself. And also, check out the forums, the open source ecology forums. I'm mentioning all of these little issues, and please comment. Please do. If I'm wrong, I can really use the comments. They help me out.